Okay, so students, so far what we have here is the fraction 1 for our caraway oil. So we have found only limonene in our sample here, so I went ahead and ensured that we have a label for it. We have a retention time of 40.25 seconds for our limonene, and we do have an area of 1.37 millivolts squared, so so we should be able to use that for a calculation later. And because this is the only compound in there, it has a 100% of the area. So I'm going to go ahead and snip this picture that you see, and let me go ahead and highlight this, and I'm going to make it available to everybody. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this and put it on iLearn for everyone. Okay, so this is separation caraway oil fraction 1, and I'll go ahead and make some space here so that we can now take a look at fraction 5. So let me go ahead and go on back to Logger Pro. I'm going to clear the latest run and get rid of this information down below. And now we will go ahead and start to inject fraction 5. So I have already washed my Hamiltonian syringe. I just need to prep it with the sample. So again, I'm going to dip my syringe into the sample here and carefully draw up about 3 microliters of sample, and I'm just washing my needle here. So I'm going to repeat this process 2 more times. All right, and now I will be adding 2 microliters of sample to my syringe, and I'm going to pull back my plunger to add some air, so I'm adding 3 microliters of air as well. All right, now my needle is ready to go. I'm going to go ahead and guide my syringe into the port, and I'm going to go ahead and press collect. All right, so the goal here will be to see no limonene in our fraction number 5, because our column chromatography should have separated the 2 compounds from each other. Okay, so our fraction 5 has still been running through the gas chromatography machine, but I just want to highlight the fact that we do not see a limonene peak happening at the timing where we saw limonene in fraction 1. We're coming close to the time where we should start to see some carbone show up in our sample, and it looks like the machine is responding here. Okay, looks like we're getting a little lift there. Let's see how much carbone we get. Oh, all right. Looking good. Now we have a much wider peak here, so the area under this curve should be much greater than the peak that we saw for limonene, but we're going to go ahead and let this stabilize, go back to baseline, and then we'll analyze the area and determine our retention time. All right, students, so it looks like this is the peak that we were able to find in fraction number 5 for our caraway oil. And I'm going to go ahead and collect some data on this peak. Again, the good part is that we see no limonene happening in this area, so this is telling us that for sure we are successful in our column for the separation of carbone and limonene in the caraway oil. So I'm going to go ahead and click on Analyze here, and let's integrate this peak. So I'm going to go ahead and highlight the area. Okay, let me click on Add, and I know for sure this will be carbone. I'm going to go ahead and label it with the appropriate type of carbone. So this is S plus carbone. All right, and let me go ahead and click OK. But what we see here is we have a retention time of 219.5 seconds roughly. Remember that the timing is actually supposed to be in seconds, not minutes. We've got an area of 3.55 millivolts squared there, and it looks like well, since this is the only peak being analyzed, it's 100% of all the areas there. All right, let me go ahead and click OK, and it provides all of that data for you here in a nice table. All right, I'm going to go ahead and transfer this data, so let me use my snip tool. I'm going to pull that up. So here's our fraction 1 file, and see how we have only limonene there. Let me go ahead and paste in our next graphic here, and so this is showing you here that we have only carbone in fraction 5. All right, so this has been the separation of carbone and limonene and caraway oil.